So Trump has a new White House press secretary. Her name is McEnany, and she just torches the press.
Yeah.
And basically, of course, the press is constantly doing revisionist history with not just Donald Trump, but with anyone in his administration. Revisionist history in the sense that when did the pandemic begin? When did he know that the coronavirus came to the United States? What did he do? And so forth. But meanwhile, the press itself was reporting all kinds of things that really weren't true back in January and February.
They took a guess. You know, they thought that this wasn't going to be a big deal, like a lot of people did, and they published articles on it, and then now they've been proven to be wrong. But I think rather than, you know, accepting their incorrect stories, they've just kind of passed the blame over to the administration and said, you guys were wrong. Kind of not taking a second to look in the mirror, but you know.
So get this. So Trump gets angry at the press, of course, frequently, and of course his first reaction is to say, "You're fake news."
Yes.
But he doesn't refer back to what makes them fake news, such as their previous reporting and how dishonest they were and how they constantly revise history, but at the same time change their writing after the fact. Not so with the new White House press secretary.
No, she is excellent.
She calls them out, including how dishonest their stories were.
Yeah, whether you agree with somebody politically or not, I think you should at least take like a look at how well they articulate themselves and explain their position and are, you know, commanding of the facts. And whether you agree with Kayleigh McEnany or not, she is very good at knowing what she's talking about.
She really is. I mean, she's just, and to prove it, we have a clip. And you have to listen to this clip really carefully because she just torches the press. At least that's what one of the news outlets said. I don't think there's a better word than torches them.
Yeah.
And here is the clip.
Kayleigh, in a previous life, before you were press secretary, you worked for the campaign. And you made a comment, I believe, on Fox, in which you said President Trump will not allow the coronavirus to come to this country. Given what has happened since then, obviously, would you like to take that back?
Well, first, let me note, I was asked a question on Fox Business about the president's travel restrictions. I noted what was the intent behind those travel restrictions, which is we will not see the coronavirus come here. We will not see terrorism come here, referring to an earlier set of travel restrictions. I guess I would turn the question back on the media and ask similar questions. Does Vox want to take back that they proclaim that the coronavirus would not be a deadly pandemic? Does the Washington Post want to take back that they told Americans to get a grip, the flu is bigger than the coronavirus? Does the Washington Post likewise want to take back that our brains are causing us to exaggerate the threat of the coronavirus? Does the New York Times want to take back that fear of the virus may be spreading faster than the virus itself? Does NPR want to take back that the flu was a much bigger threat than the coronavirus? And finally, once again, the Washington Post, would they like to take back that the government should not respond aggressively to the coronavirus? I'll leave you with those questions, and maybe you'll have some answers in a few days.
Oh my gosh, singed. I mean,
call that a mic drop right there, man.
And why don't they go back to those reporters and say, look, in the old days in the press, what would happen was
they'd correct the story.
They would correct the story. Yeah. Or at a minimum, that reporter was brought in to the editor saying, why didn't you verify this story before you actually came to me? Or the editor was fired for letting the story run without actually making sure that there were substantive verifications of its validity.
Yeah. My favorite part of that clip is, it didn't make it in there, but right after that, as she's walking out of the room, you usually hear the reporters all get up and they start yelling at whoever's at the podium, try to get their last second questions in. And it kind of cuts off as a second, and that person who asked the question is like distraught, and he says, you were prepared for that question. And it was just, to me, it was shocking because they just expected her to be up there and have no preparedness and was just flying off the cuff, and was so surprised that she took the time to actually have this information on hand. And it just shows you, I guess, the level of, you know, freedom that the press kind of takes and how they handle the administration.
Obviously, she wasn't just prepared, but she's incredibly professional.
Yeah.
And she just is able to really do her homework and skewer them because really, as we all know, this election's about the pandemic. And now the Democrats are going to change it to, it's about the economy, of course, and about how you responded to the pandemic. And we know this, of course, because that's the kind of stuff that they're running. And in fact, the press doesn't want the government to open up the economy, right?
Yeah.
They don't want the government to open up the economy because the longer it takes, the worse the economy is going to get. And sadly, many Democrats and the press, of course I repeat myself, they basically want the economy to crash, which is really hard to believe.